So I have now finished my review series for the Star Wars films. Now it's time to go ahead and rank all 11 of them. Not counting the Clone Wars movie because I'm only doing the live action ones right now. And like I said at the beginning of this month, I love Star Wars. It's very special to me, and there's not a single Star Wars movie that I absolutely hate. There are things that I love and like in every Star Wars movie. I don't think any of them are absolutely unredeemable or horrible. So without further rambling, let's go ahead and kick off this list with number 11, and that's going to be The Phantom Menace. And I still really like this movie despite it being at the bottom. I really love a lot of things about this movie. Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, the Darth Maul duel. There's just a lot to love in this movie, but it, in my opinion, does have the weakest story of these films, and there are some somewhat boring parts, so it's here in last place. Number 10, slightly above The Phantom Menace, is Attack of the Clones. A lot of people say that this is the worst Star Wars movie. A lot of people say that this is a bad movie, and I'll argue that it's not a particularly good movie. I still have fun with it. Once again, Ewan McGregor is great as Obi-Wan. I actually like Hayden Christensen in this movie as Anakin. Natalie Portman as Padme is really good. I really love Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. And we get introduced to Jango Fett, played by Tamara Morrison, who is also terrific. And I really love the action sequences in this movie, where Phantom Menace really just had the Darth Maul duel and some parts of the Gungan battle for me. I like every action scene in this movie, but once again, story's kind of lacking, and so it's here at number 10. Number 9 is a guilty pleasure for me. Once again, I'll admit it's not a very well thought out or coherently made film, and that is The Rise of Skywalker. This movie, like I said, not very well thought out, but I do enjoy quite a bit of it. Kylo Ren and Rey mainly. Lando gets a few minutes of screen time. Story is very messy, very sloppily written, but I do have fun with it, and I have to admit, it's not absolutely horrible. Number 8, really, number 7 and number 8 on this list are interchangeable. It just depends on how my mood is that day, but right now number 8 is Rogue One. A lot of people hail this as one of the best movies of the Disney era, and I don't disagree. I do enjoy this movie. It's just there are a lot of slow parts in this movie, and every time I watch it, I want to skip ahead to the action. The characters are great, but the talking scenes are just so slow moving. But again, the action is absolutely terrific. One of the best third acts in Star Wars. Number 7, and like I said, number 7 and number 8 are interchangeable, but number 7 is Solo. I really do like this one as well, for the same reasons I love Rogue One. I love the characters in this movie. I really liked Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. A lot of people don't like him. I don't know why, because he wasn't just trying to copy Harrison Ford. He was paying respect to Harrison Ford and still making the character his own. Obviously, I have to talk about Donald Glover as Lando. Absolutely terrific character. But like Rogue One, the talking parts are a little slow, but they're just a tad bit more entertaining in this one than in Rogue One. Number 6 is basically the most controversial movie on this list, and that is The Last Jedi. And I don't care, I still really like this movie. There, like I said in my review, are a lot of creative choices I do not particularly agree with. The portrayal of Luke is not one of them. I'm like the only person who likes where they took Luke in this movie. I'm not extremely familiar with Legends, so I can't speak on whether I prefer the Legends Luke or this Luke. But I do like this version of Luke. Mark Hamill's not a big fan of it, but I still think that this was his best performance as Luke. Obviously, you get some more great character development for Rey and Kylo Ren. I love their chemistry. The throne room fight's amazing. The entire third act on Crate, absolutely terrific, especially how Luke's death is handled. I just really enjoy this movie, despite some narrative issues that I would have probably done different. And starting off the top 5, at number 5 is Return of the Jedi, and I still really love this movie. Just the main thing holding it back is the entire first act. It's a little bit dragged out. It's not a horrible first act. I like the whole aesthetic of Jabba's palace. I just feel like they could have trimmed about 10 minutes off of the whole first act, and really nothing of value would have been lost. Specifically the Jedi Rock song and the special edition, just cut that out completely. But everything else in this movie is absolutely terrific. Mark Hamill is giving his second best performance as Luke, in my opinion. Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, James Earl Jones, the first actual appearance of Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor. Everything in this movie, aside from the first act, is absolutely terrific. And again, I don't hate the third act. I probably just would have trimmed 10 minutes to save time. But I still really love this movie, and it was a great closing to the original trilogy. And at my number 4, now my top 4 are all, for me, 10 out of 10 movies. And it's really hard to decide between 2 through 4 on where I rank those 3. My number 1's been written in stone forever, but 2, 3, and 4 are very tricky. They can be in any different position on any different day. But today, number 4 is going to be Star Wars, the original masterpiece by George Lucas. And just because this is not at number 1 does not mean that I hate this movie. I love everything about this movie, everything it established, everything it set up, the world that it introduces us to. It's absolutely terrific. Luke, Han, Leia, Obi-Wan, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2, Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin. We have all these terrific characters introduced in this movie, and it's just absolutely terrific. And like I said, my top 4 are all 10 out of 10 movies. They are all in my favorite movies of all time. Probably my top 20 movies of all time. All 4 of my top 4 are in there. But yeah, the original Star Wars is at number 4. Number 3, just barely beating out the original Star Wars, is The Force Awakens. And I still really love this movie. Despite my opinion on some of the ways that the other 2 movies in the sequel trilogy went, I still think this was a very, very good setup for the trilogy. Despite it not particularly going the way I would have wanted it to go, I still really loved it. Harrison Ford gives his best performance as Han Solo, and obviously we're introduced to Rey, one of my personal favorite Star Wars characters. Kylo Ren, one of my personal favorite Star Wars villains. I just love everything about this movie. And like I said in my review, before this movie came out, my love for Star Wars didn't technically go anywhere. It was just kind of lying dormant because I was still a cold, heartless monster because Clone Wars was canceled, and I had just not felt like getting around to Rebels at that time, which I am currently watching through, and I'm really thoroughly enjoying it. But this movie really revitalized my love for Star Wars. Like I said, not that it went anywhere, it was just lying dormant, and this movie just brought it back. And number 2, the runner-up, is Revenge of the Sith, the finale of the prequel trilogy. And I absolutely love this movie, everything about it. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan once again, absolutely terrific. He's probably the most consistently great thing of the prequel trilogy. Hayden Christensen as Anakin. As much as I liked him in Attack of the Clones, I liked him even better in this one. Natalie Portman's the same way. I liked her in The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, but she was even better in this one as well. Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine, absolutely terrific. Some of the best lightsaber duels in Star Wars history are in this movie. Some of the best score. This is probably the most original score of the Star Wars scores. It's the one that reuses other scores from other movies the least. There are some reusages of past scores, but this one does it the least. And I just really love everything about this movie. The emotional climactic battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar, absolutely terrific. Ewan McGregor should have won an Oscar for this movie. But number one is undoubtedly, for me, going to be The Empire Strikes Back. This has been my favorite Star Wars movie for a very long time. Aside from when I was a kid and I thought Attack of the Clones was the greatest thing ever made. But this is undoubtedly the literal definition of a sequel that does everything better than the original. As much as I love the original, this is just even better because you have everything that was great about the original. It's all cranked up to 5,000 in this movie, and I love everything about it. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, all great. C-3PO and R2, still really great. Chewbacca is still great. You get your first actual canon introduction to Yoda because these movies were released before the prequels. And I love the way Yoda is portrayed in this movie. You get the introduction to my favorite Star Wars character of all time in Lando Calrissian, played by Billy D. Williams. It's just everything about this movie is terrific. This is the first movie that contains the Imperial March song, and I just absolutely love this movie. So that was my ranking for all 11 live-action theatrically released Star Wars films. How would you rank these movies from worst to best? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Which one's your favorite? Which one's your least favorite? As always, do keep it civil, be respectful. I know there are a lot of people who are not big on what Disney has done with Star Wars, and that's perfectly fine. Just don't be sexist, racist, or any kind of bigoted in the comments about why you don't like it. Always, I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.